Welcome back to another Sweet Home 3D tutorial. In this video, we're going to be learning about the rest of the tools that we haven't looked at so far. We're going to be learning about adding text and dimensioning, adding different measuring dimensions of our plan, and kind of just communicating really well our document. So if we were sending it to an estimator or a construction, someone to take off and give us pricing, these are the tools we want to use for that. So I'm just going to review real quick. We'll grab our wall tool. I'll just drop something that we can look at while reviewing. We just kind of left click a couple times here and we can create a nice little thing here. I'll double click to close it off, and then we can grab our floor tool. And this time maybe I do want to do, like in the last video I was saying, just make sure that you realize that right now we're doing an interior floor. So this would be more like if I wanted to get pricing for some carpet or something. I'll hit the escape key to close that off. So now I have a 623 square foot floor with some walls that are about 36 feet by 18 feet. So back to my selection tool. So let's say we want to dimension this out. We want to show someone. Well, first of all, if I just select this 623 square feet, we see we can kind of rotate this around. So if we wanted to, for some reason we want it to be this direction, we could. And we can also click and move it around. So if we hover over till we get this looking icon, we can move, oh, I'm sorry, that moves the actual whole thing. Control Z will undo that. This is the one that helps us move it around, this icon here. So we can move this around. Sometimes it'll be like a good example of that is if we draw a strange shape like this. Oh, whoops, I did walls. Delete that, let's grab a floor. If we grab a floor and do it like that, it's gonna show the square footage is gonna be here, down here, and we want it to be within this. Maybe this is a hallway. So we would click on our selection tool, hover over to this bottom part, then left click and drag, and we can move it so it's within the area. So it just helps people visually see better what's going on. So whatever we select, we can move it around. And then if we just move the actual floor, we can move that around too, but we don't want to do that. So Control Z will undo and move it back to where it was immediately before that. And then we can rotate this text around too. And we can also make it larger. So to do that, we have these couple different A's up here. We have these blue A's. That's like a smaller A turning into a bigger A. That increases the size of whatever text is selected. So we can make this pretty big. We can move it. Maybe we want this to be in the center, so we move it to the center here. Then we can select this one and make it big as well. So we click this big. Oh, it's a little too big. So then the one to the right makes it a little bit smaller. So we can make it a little bit smaller like that. This next A makes it a bold. If we want to bold the text, we can click and make both these bold to kind of bring it out so people really see. We want to emphasize the square footage of this space. And then this is italic. If we want to italicize it, just like slants the text a little bit. Okay. So as far as dimensioning goes now, let's go. We're on our selection tool. Let's say we want to illustrate to someone, like someone to frame this up, and we want to make sure they understand that this is 36 inches and that this is, or 36 feet, I'm sorry, and that this is 18 feet. To do that, we grab our dimension tool right here. So we click on this dimension tool. It brings up a tip. Go ahead and read through this. Make sure you understand how this tool works. We'll click OK. But what it's going to do, we can just click anywhere, any point, and it'll tell us how long that is, or tell us, yeah, in feet, the distance that is. And then it creates like a dimension like this. I'll hit the delete key because the ideal way to do this is to zoom in and to do a dimension of a certain area. So we'll do like this right here. So we want to get this dimension. We can click on our dimension tool. We come right to the edge of where we want it to be, so right to the outside edge of the wall and left click. And then we go to the outside edge of the point that we want to measure to, which is the far side of this wall in this case, and we left click. And then the third thing we do, we're not quite done yet, we have to say how far out we want this to be, because otherwise it'll just be right over top of the wall and it's hard to see. So we could bring it into the inside of the room, but that's a little misleading because we're actually measuring the outside of the wall. So we bring it outside just so people know that it's an outside dimension. So we left click about here and then that's done. And then we're still on the dimension tool, so we can click again. This time I will do the inside. So we can come to the inside dimension and click, and then come inside and click a third time. So now we can see, perfect. Grab our pan tool. We can left click and move around here and see. The outside of this wall is 36 and 1 inch, and the inside is 35 and 4 inches. So if that's not exactly true, so you can do the math and figure out like exactly how thick our walls are. But if that's not exactly true, we can actually come in and adjust this. So we grab our selection tool and we can adjust this by coming to the edge and just clicking, and we can shrink it down to just 36 feet exactly. And then same, we can adjust this one too if we want. So this is 36 feet exactly. And then we want to maybe make this, it looks kind of small right now. So if we wanted to actually send this to someone, we'd want this to be a little bit larger maybe. So we click on it and we can click this, oops, we click on it so it's selected, and then we can make that text a little bit larger. We can make it bold if we want. And then same with this one. Or maybe we want the inside one to remain small, I don't know. So that's how we can add dimensioning and control the size. And there's one more thing we can do. We can just add, if we want to add a note to this, well, first of all, actually look down here in our 3D view. I just want to point out that nothing is yet, none of this dimensioning is appearing on our 3D view. And that's because by default, it just shows only the actual drawn thing. So if someone were to, this is what it'll look like when it's finished and built. So, right, that goes without saying. We don't actually want to physically paint 623 square feet on the floor of our room, but we do want the plans to show that so that the builder knows how to do it, or the person estimating knows how much materials to buy. So that's kind of why, if you're curious why those numbers and notations aren't showing up down here, that's why. But to add a note, if we want to add a note to this floor plan, we just click up on here to this A+, and this is the text tool. We can add some text. So we click OK, and then anywhere we click is where we can start typing. So we click, and it says, what type of text do you want to type in? We'll just type in TJ's bedroom. And now that shows up right there, and we can make it larger just like we did the rest of the text. We can make it italicized if we want. And then we can grab the selection tool and actually move it around. And if we come to this little icon at the top of it, we can rotate it. If I get right on that icon, I can rotate this around too. So that's how we can do text. But again, it doesn't appear down here unless we want it to. So when I was creating the text, it had an option to, if we check this box here, we type in test, and we, under 3D rendering, we click visible in 3D view, then it actually will show up in the 3D view as well. So it says test down here, you can see that, right? So now it does say test on the floor, and that's because sometimes you might want to write on the wall or on the floor or something of your 3D model as well. Yeah, well, I think that's what I want to show you in this video. So get familiar with all those. So now we've basically learned how to use all these different tools here. We've got zoom in, zoom out, different text. And yeah, in the next video, we'll talk about how to actually save our file, save our projects, and how to export this drawing and send it to someone if we want to email it to them or put it on a jump drive, and how to actually export different 3D views to share our drawings and layouts with other people. So I appreciate you watching. Go ahead and leave your comments and questions below. I'll do my best to answer them, and I'll catch you in the next video.